Howdy everybody, how's it going? Before I jump into this video, I want to take just a second to talk about Steve Albini. My last video I had up on this channel was an interview that I did with Steve, and he's no longer with us anymore. For those of y'all that have followed this channel, you probably understand how much Steve really meant to me, and he had a lot of really nice things to say about what I was doing too. He inspired just the living out of me in the way that he recorded and his whole approach, which was always unorthodox and different. So it's a huge loss. It doesn't feel right starting off this video without saying that. Now, I actually have an email from Steve after my last interview that I did with him. I forgot to ask him about a couple guitars that were on the record, and I feel like I should share that email before we jump into this because it actually has a little bit of importance about the guitars that Kurt used. I asked him about the high flyers because Kurt had a high flyer custom. He had just a ton of Univox high flyers, and I wanted to know which one was used on the record, which one was actually there. Steve said, I only remember seeing one high flyer. It had the original pickups with the nickel chrome surround ring. It was possible there were others, but it was mostly that guitar, his Mustang, and the Volino from memory. And I can attest to that, that's definitely true. This is the configuration of high flyer that was used on a Utero. Kurt had one. I don't think there's many photos of him with it. If there are, I've never really seen it, but here's a photo of it from the vault. That's the Utero high flyer. And I also wanted to ask Steve on the record about what pickups were in the Volino. I asked him, I said, your Volino that was used, would it have been fitted with P90s or some other configuration of pickups? At the time of the session, it had the original Guild pickups. I had it fitted with P90s for my own use afterward, then refitted it with the Guild pickups when I sold it to the collector/dealer guy. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, Steve's Volino is now in a museum, which is definitely where it belongs. All right, with that out of the way, it's actually here, the IR pack. It's taken me like 2 years of development. I've bought and sold probably 7 different quad reverbs to find the perfect sounding one, because newsflash, they don't all sound the same. Even with the same speakers, they really vary all over the place. I sourced all the original microphones that were used on the record, preamps, EQ, like literally everything. And the amount of money that I've spent it's got to be astronomical. I honestly don't even want to know how much I've spent to do this, but it's done, and I'm so happy to finally share it with you guys. So head on over to aaronrash.com where you can pick it up. After you buy it, a download link will be sent to you, and you download it and use it just like any other IR pack. All right, let's jump into how to use it. All right, guys, I'm gonna give you a walkthrough of the IR pack and how to use it. I'm still coming off this COVID, so my energy is just not there. For the amp, I'm using so for every IR pack, any IR you use, you need to use like an amp head. I'm using Softtube's vintage amp room, and I'm using this dual tremolo amplifier, and it's basically, you know, like a Fender circuit type of model. It's on sale right now for 49 bucks, so I totally recommend you get this. I have no affiliation with Softtube whatsoever. I just really like their software, it's really good. And that's what I've been using with the IR pack. But any type of like free twin reverb circuit modeling amp will be fine. The amp's not really important. What's important is the IR pack, which you'll see soon in the video. So yeah, Softtube vintage amp room. I'll throw a link to it in the description. Now for loading IRs, I'm using Fractal Systems CabLab 4. It's a free IR loader. It seems to work really, really well. You can use any kind of IR loader you want, but if you don't have one and you want a free one, CabLab 4. And with that, we're gonna be using the IR pack. And after you download it from aaronrash.com, you'll notice there's 3 folders when you open it up, and it'll have an owner's manual. But there's basically 2 tones on that whole record. There's this huge boxy sound, and then there's like a presence tone. Almost every song is layered that way. So in this main folder here is gonna be all the main microphones on the quad reverb with Utahs, and all the tones in the record you can do with these here. But I went ahead and made some really cool folders, some combos, where I went and made specialized versions of those different blends of mics, which will be in this folder, just to kind of help you guys get started if you don't want to tweak forever. And then there's a specialized folder as well with just some more cool presets that I've made. But just remember, in the main folder, you can create all the sounds from the record with just that when you start experimenting and blending stuff together. For pedals, I'm using a Rat, which I found exactly where it was used, a DS1, I know a lot of people are probably gonna disagree with me on that, but I tested to death the DS1 versus the DS2, and to me the record sounds like the DS1. And when I talked to Steve Albini, he had told me the same thing.
He had a DS1. That was actually kind of weird. He had a bunch of these Boss DS1 distortions.
Yeah.
And he claimed that all of them were bad except one.
I'm also using a Sansamp Classic, Pedal X. I found out where Pedal X was used. We're gonna be using that. And the good old Echo Flanger. All right, so let's jump in. Let me get a guitar. So here I have some multi-tracks of Kurt's guitar. I have Guitar 1A, Guitar 1B, Guitar 1C, Guitar 1D. And these are all just different microphones on the Quad Reverb. So for instance, here's a 4038 on Kurt's amp, which sounds like this. And here's my amp settings for that there. Middle all the way up, treble 9.5, bass 3.5. Another really cool one is the RCA BK5, same exact thing. Here's Kurt's. Here's one of my favorites. This is the RCA 74. It's got this really giant boxy sound. Same exact thing, sounds like this. Here's Kurt's. And lastly on the Quad was a room microphone, which is a general ambience thing, which took a lot of time to get right. But it's safe to say, it's here and it sounds like this. Here's Kurt's. Isn't that crazy? This is an IR. Like, no quad reverb, and it sounds like this. It really does feel like I'm like playing Kurt's rig in the computer. It's really, really weird. All right, moving on. Let me show you the other tone, the presence tone. All right, so this tone is the DS1, and same exact thing. Here's the amp settings here. This is the other amp settings. So for the presence tone, it's a little different. Treble up all the way, middle at 1, bass at 4.5. And here I'm using the presence tone 4038 IR. Kurt's guitar. So that's the 4038, and same exact thing too with the RCA BK5. Sounds a little bit different, sounds like this here. Can you believe this is a fucking IR pack? Anyways, so there's those two tones. There's the presence tone, which you hear all over the record, and then there's the boxy tone, which you hear all over the record. Which basically, the only difference is like DS1 or Sansamp, with the exception of a few songs. So I know that's not the most exciting part of the video, but I just wanted to show you like, those are the tone building blocks. And then from there, you can kind of do whatever. So let's go ahead and do Wappy. That's what I called it in the IR pack. All right, so this one is, again, it's the DS1 and the neck pickup on the Hi-Fi. Sounds like this. And for that preset, again, it's just the presence settings. Like I said, there's just 2 amp settings in this whole record. For that IR, I'm using the Wappy RCA BK5 Clean IR. It sounds identical. It's really blowing my mind, honestly. And for the distortion, it sounds like this. Here's Kurt's. All right, so here's a really fun one. It's a good chance to show off the Volino. I went ahead and made a specialized version of this. It's called the IHMSAWTT combo. You can actually blend in a little bit more of the bridge. It's a lot of fun. The Volino is super fun for a lot of those really noisy kind of sounds. So that's just mainly the neck pickup and a little bit of bridge. This one's a lot of fun. It's the only song that I could find that I know for sure this guitar was used. This is the Farrington. If you're a Kurt Cobain fan, I'm sure you know what this guitar is. And I made a really cool combo for this one, so you can hear the room in there. It sounds like I'm sitting in the room playing that guitar. These Bartolinis have such a specific sound to them. They're really beautiful. I definitely see why Kurt chose this guitar for all apologies. And this IR, it sounds exactly like it. It's really blowing my mind. Shit's nuts, man. All right, this one here is pretty wild. This is Serve the Servants, and it's actually the DS1. And for that, it's just called STS combo. And for the distortion of that, he's using the DS1. DS1 with the Volino sounds crazy. Here's a really fun one. Waif Me. This guitar was definitely used on Waif Me, and it sounds like this. And again, that's just the Presence amp setting. I'm using the Waif Me RCA BK5 Volino IR. You'll see it in there. Such a cool tone. Alright guys, the last one we'll do is Heart-Shaped Box. And this is where I'm using the Dynacomp pedal for cleans and the Rat distortion pedal. It has a super unique sound. So yeah, for that, I'm just using the Dynacomp. It makes it a little bit more punchy. I like to use it on this one. So that's clean guitar number one. There's two different clean guitars. Let me go ahead and show you clean guitar number two. So I found out where pedal X was used, and it's like this. I'm going into pedal X, and then out from that into the Sans amp, and then DI is just straight in. He had to have been doing this DI. And it sounds like this. It's a really cool sound. All right, moving on to the distortion. So for this, I'm going into the Rat and then into the echo flanger. So that's using the presence setting with the Rat pedal. And then there's also, of course, on the actual record, a layer of the Sans amp as well with the Mustang. And when you layer those both together, it sounds really awesome, like this. I still can't believe this is all an IR pack. Like when I set out to make this IR pack, which has been like 2 years in the making, I thought I would get close, but I didn't think it would be like this. Oh, and speaking of, coming up next is an IR pack for Nevermind. It's gonna be really, really good too. You guys wanna hear a little bit of it? Just a little bit really quick? All right, here it is. Nevermind Moserite. Here's an IR I'm working on. It's called the Lithium Clean IR. Such an awesome sounding guitar. It's a little bit awkward to play because it wants to lean this way. The neck weighs like nothing and the whole thing goes like this. Here's another fun one. This is a 1973 competition Mustang, and I've kept it in a stock configuration because I really love these Mustangs, how they sound like this too. Yeah, so there'll be an IR for that too. Obviously. Or what if you started a song like this? Like the most confusing thing. All right, guys. Well, figured this is probably a good time to stop this video. Look how awesome this looks in the sunlight. These are finally gonna be ready for pre-order. Finally. I know you guys don't believe me, but it's true. All right, guys. See you on the next one. Peace.